Pasha. Wherever you are, just take a moment to let go. Let go of the day, you know. I know you might have gone through a lot and experienced a lot. Maybe upete is stress, zanamhlanje, whatever it might be. So the invitation is just to take a deep breath in and out. And in one more time. And out. With the next in-breath, I just want you to think about all that has happened during the course of the day or the course of the week that might be stressing you, and in. And without, you just let it all go. Just let it all go. Release it. Release it to the universe. Release it to the universe. So that you can be fully present. So that you can be with us here and now. Take another breath in. Just taking in all that is stressing you from your head to your toe. And breathe out, releasing it to the universe, knowing that it is taken care of, whatever it might be, whoever it might be, in some cases. Another deep breath in, thinking of all the stresses, the worries, and the concerns that might be gathered in your midst right now. And release it with the out breath, giving it to the universe, trusting that all is taken care of, and that you can be fully present here with us today. Ground yourself. Feel yourself landing from head to toe. Feel yourself present. Know that as we do the work of the ancestors, you are grounded in a space that is safe and well held. Feel your toes. Feel your arms. Feel your ears. Feel your eyes. Feel your body, your beautiful body that God has blessed you with. Free from all worry, from all stress. And if you'd like to just shake it off or move your shoulders, whatever feels comfortable for you. Breathing in, knowing that the breath is the connector. The breath is what journeys us from space to space, from place to place. We breathe in the same air that our ancestors breathed. We breathe out the same air that our future generations will be breathing. Take a deep breath in one more time. Breathe in the essence of all your ancestors, all those who've walked before you. And breathe out all that no longer serves you. Breathe in the beauty, the joy, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the knowing of all your ancestors, for they breathe the same breath. And breathe out all that no longer serves you. I'm going to pass it over to Tabiso as Pashlele. Tabisa, this one, it was Pashlele. You're on mute.
Camaku tata ndithi ndiyacamaku kule ndawo. Ancestral greetings to everyone who has joined us. Thank you for joining us. Sawukhe siphahle kancinci ke siyacamagusha ke kunceda ukhwelo sawube sicamagusha kuni orhudulu sikhomo camagusha kuni ke kwamambanjwa sithi nina sokhanyeni sicela nisikhaphe ndisincedise namhlanje kulo msebenzi nisiphathe wona kuthi konke ukukhanya kube ngaphambi kwendlela zethu ihambe nathi kule ndlela sithi kwinto zonke esizenzayo bonakale ukukhanya ngaphambi kwethu sithi makube chichosi kubehele camagusha kuwe nawe mama Khumalo khokho wam bulela ngako konke okwenzileyo nokwenzayo nozathi usihlale phakathi kwethu namhlanje futhi wonke umuntu ongenileyo phakathi kweli khaya phakathi kule room yanamhlanje xa sithi sikonekthe nezihlwele zabo cela ke nisebenzisane abantu abadala makube chichosi kubehele Camagu. Camagu, Dad. Camagu.
Siyacamagwisha, Mama, siyacamagwisha. Just a little bit of a brief background as to how this happened, you know. So Tabitha and I have been kind of, hey, siyadlulana, you know, it's like this and like that. And so she calls me on Sunday and she's like, I want you to do this thing with Uzola and all these different amazing healers. But I'm like, wena, so semenzanin, you know. And so it's a deep honor for me. Honor your ancestors, and we give thanks for this opportunity. Basikwazi ukuba kunye, makukhanye. We'll start it off just by literally opening up the space, and when we were conceptualizing this, it's such a broad topic, you know. There's so much esingaithetha. We could speak until our lips go blue in the face because life is the greatest teacher, right? Sonke, we've been through relationships, good and bad. Sonke, I hope that we've connected with our ancestors, and at some point or at some level in some way. So today we're going to integrate the two, you know, and our main framework is just to talk about the self, because we always seem to forget that we are such a critical equation in this all, you know. I've been around spaces where siachola is hlwele, you know, we blame the ancestors, whereas we should take responsibility too. So we thought we must talk about self and then talk about the ancestors in general, you know, as well as talk about community. So those are the three layers in which we shall be exploring tonight. And that's the journey in which we will take you on tonight. So on that, I'll pass it over to you, Sis Tavis.
Camagu, Dad. Camagu. Bethuna, I think we're going to mix English and Isindu. For some odd reason. I find myself in this booth, but English. Guys, I know that I need to accommodate everyone, but just bear with us. I think just today's, or rather, you know, I think I said later, it's going to be important that we actually define who are our ancestors. And I know generally we regard everyone that has passed on that the ancestor, which is not necessarily true. There are those of our people that have left this realm, but have not really crossed over. And so the ones that we regard ancestors are really the ones that have passed on and have crossed over. And the defining thing in terms of who gets to be an ancestor is really around the life that they've lived here on this realm or on earth. Were they in alignment with their purpose, with their mission? Were they doing the things that were expected out of them in terms of being of the light? So I think I needed to just set the tone in terms of understanding who are our ancestors, and maybe also just touching on why would we need to acknowledge them? Because we all know that we come here or we embody these beings for a certain mission. So we almost like the marathon thing where one leaves and another one has to continue with the journey, learning and all of these things, and also to heal. Like we know that it's said everywhere in terms of we are here to heal, to learn, and to really heal the lineage and whatever. So it's important that we come from that place of understanding. So, because there are those that have not really crossed over. And I think Otatulita, who's one of the mediums that do that kind of work, are the ones that then help families with regards to those that have not really crossed over but are late, in terms of the cleansing and adhering to all the stuff that are requirements for them to cross over, to be with the other ancestors. I think that I'm stop up for now.
Tamaku, yes, you know. And so when we talk about the ancestors, a lot of the work that I've been doing over the past couple of years is based on identifying the different types of ancestors. Njengoba uSis Thabisa achieved. And my greatest desire, you know, and my goal in terms of my purpose up in Mhlabeni is to relook relationships zethu between Israel, is it our relationship between us and our ancestors, because xa ucinga nge-African spirituality in general, it can be such a heavy topic, and isikakhulu it's fear-based, you know. If you don't do this, you will die. If you don't do this, this will happen. So how do we flip the script? It's always been umbuzo wami and it's bullseye. How do we flip the script and make it a love-based relationship? Because when it's a love-based, umuntu omthandayo akunyanzelekanga nisoloke nibe joy-filled. It doesn't mean you'll always get along. It doesn't mean that they'll always show up when you want them to show up in the way that you want them to show up. It doesn't mean that things will flow smoothly, but it doesn't mean that they don't love you any less. It simply means they might be busy. I always say, when you think about your ancestors, think about yourself as an individual who is in a relationship, who with self. I mean, how are you showing up? What kind of relationship do you want? Grand, nomtu, you know, and so it's so important for us to flip the script, because it's just so fear based. I found baninzi abantu abaninzi madoda boyikayo when it comes to the ancestors. They become these unapproachable beings, but they're just like our parents. They really do wish the best for us. However, nabo babophelekile kwelaa cala, so they've also got their challenges and their journey. So when you cross over, and I've had many experiences where I meet many spirits on the other side, they too have got their own journeys to take. It's different for everyone. Yeah, they too have got their own things that they need to do. Yes, one of the greatest responsibilities is for them to look out for you. However, they can't always look out for you, because they also have to finish their rites of passage on the other side. They have to journey through whatever they need to journey through. Kukhona ke abanye, like Sis Tabis has alluded to, that are not well in spirit. And Babiza, there's so many different terms for them. There's some people call them the dark deceased. Abanye abantu bazibiza izidlwengu ezingalunganga. What others? Dark spirits,
Roaming spirit.
ghosts, roaming spirits. Yeah. So there's lots of different words that are used to define. But I just always say, because Nabatanda, they also like, I have no issues with them. I always say it's just individuals that have not completed their journey to the other side. So there's nothing wrong with that. Ulahlekile. Ulahlekile. And that's what I'm saying. Let's shift the narrative. Because umuntu olahlekileyo ufuna indlela yokugoduka. So when I say yokugoduka, I mean they're also trying to find their way to regain the ancestors who are on the other side, who lived well and died well. It's very important that I use those words. Those who lived well, lived up to their purpose, as Sis Tabitha was saying, and died well, in the sense that, they were not heavy. Bebengabambanga izinto, they'd forgiven, they'd done the work. And those are the ones that cross over and become ancestors that I'd like to call ancestral helping spirits, ancestral guides. They're the ones that you want to reach out to. However, in African spirituality, which is the most fascinating thing, is when we dream of an ancestor who says, no, check in, because not everyone is a good spirit.
Batele.
Okay. Nzobatshela. Yeah, not everyone is a good spirit, and so Sioyika, that's what I'm saying. It's fear-based. It's like we always take action. And in fact, the learning and the teaching and the fund leona, after this point, I'll pass it back to Sister. The learning and the teaching that I've learned is, don't be afraid to ask for 3 signs. Don't be afraid to question as ancestors is kuwe, Don't be afraid to interact with them and say, no, imakancinci ungubani, ufuna ntoni, and why should I do this? So you have a question and an answer session. and you feel into it. But most importantly, are you well in spirit? Usisihlwele esiphilayo, esiphilisayo, okanye ufuna ukundisebenzisa ndenze izinto zakho? You know, so that's the thing that we need to start learning, is to have balls. Excuse my words, but have guts, man. And speak to your ancestors with love, but question them in love. Yabona? Because stuck. A lot of us are stuck in a paradigm of fear. And because we're stuck in a paradigm of fear, we just do. No, 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 no. Check in. Tata ixesha. Because that's what they want from you. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you. Because in order to establish a good relationship nabo, a check-in is good. Akho nto erongo apha. Tu nakancinci. Now I'll pass it over to you, Sister Tabis.
Enkosi Tata Camako. I think what brings fear to people is most probably not knowing if they are connecting, or rather, how do they even speak to their ancestors, and how to cultivate this relationship where someone is confident, in terms of accepting the help from the ancestors. Like you just said earlier, is that sometimes people get this fear because of not knowing how they should receive or how they should communicate. I think one of the things I would have loved to just say is that each and every one of us know, or who has done some work in terms of being able to connect to our ancestors. Sort of, we have a way of knowing when they come through. So we know that they speak to us in different ways. They can be dropping thoughts. We can have visions. We can speak to them or be able to hear from them through dreams. So one of the things that I always say is that it's so important for us to have like a relationship. Part of that is to be able to train our people that, like what I do is that when I speak to them, I've trained them that, or rather I've cultivated an environment where I would say to them, please speak to me anytime that you need to speak to me. Don't wait until I sleep. We know there's a lot of manipulation around dreams as well. So for me, I want them to be able to come through when they need to come through. I've given them that access through ukuphahla kwam. And also, just one of the things is that first part that we were mentioning in terms of who's actually ancestors, we want to be able to connect with the ones from the light. For me, is important because whatever I do will be driven by what they want me to do. Because if I then invite or allow myself to just call on any deceased person that's in the spirit, I'll find myself, most probably, I haven't done that, I'll find myself being, misled because of the stuff that they might require. Like what I told you, that you'll find yourself something for their own stuff, which is not really linked to your journey. And it's really for them. I think they're trying to get a coping mechanism or even to appease so that they can cross over, sometimes even still not in a right way. So for me, I think with me saying that, it's important for us to acknowledge, because some of the people that I've come across is that they wouldn't even know how do they hear, how do they know that they've connected. So I think some of these are the stuff that I did mention, is that you need to be able, for me, how my people come through is that they would come through asking me questions. Most of the time they come through, they don't just dish information. That's their language, or their language to me. And so it's not a thing where I just simply be passive and let them do whatever. They drop the messages because they want to interrogate my thinking. So they want to bring me on board in terms of me coming to an answer or solution to that thing that they want me to know about, that they are trying to teach me. So that's one of the beautiful things, is that you must be able to recognize them, so that you are even able to recognize the ones that are not. Obviously, I think I also like what Tudadilita has done in the beginning, where he's allowed us through that small Anyana meditation session, is that would then be able to hear, because that's very important as well, in terms of when we feel that we are connecting, that we must also feel the energy when they're around us. That's one of the things that for me is important. I know baza ngothando, they come with love. Yes, also that two-way communication is very important, like like I was also alluding to that, is that it's important for you when you get the download, interrogate aspect so that you get to find the solution of that thing that they're trying to give you a message around. So it's the how to hear them and how to connect. I don't know, Tatulita ungangena apa if there's any other thing that endishileyo, but I think that is one level. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you speak so well, Zotine. So the second part that I'd like to go into is the self. Yeah, you know, ancestors, self, it's always like that, you know. But anyway, um, I just let's look at the self for a bit, you know. So yeah, thanks, Alenugum, because you know I've worked with so many different individuals from diverse backgrounds, and the number one thing is about the psychology or the physiological aspect. There's the physiological aspect, and then bekhona the spiritual aspect. Abantu abaninzi bangxamele ukuya emoyeni before bazilungise bona. You know, I found that it's much more easier for you to attract the dark deceased when you have not worked on yourself. It's much easier for them to access you when you are not doing the self-healing work. And that's not to say but the other spirits are not available to you, but into eyenzakalayo andithi sine-generational cycles or generational patterns that we are here to break. But, and this is the funny thing, is most of us focus on the patterns that we are here to break, but we don't realize that we are also creating patterns, you know? We are creating patterns that will affect future generations. So let me move back towards the working on the self, which is the psychology or the physiological aspect, umzimba, you know, because nguwe mos isihlele esiphilayo, nguyinyama, they are you and you are them. So, personal development is so important. You know, ixesha lokuba ubeke ixesha ecaleni for you to work through your issues. I don't know what you're going through right now, but it's important that you deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, and I'm not saying do it today or tomorrow, take your time, little by little. Because if you don't start doing the inner work, it's like I said, I've seen the dark deceits are everywhere. So bazovbhaqa ithuba bangene. And then what will happen is they will use you for their own purposes and not for the purpose that you were born for. Yabona? It's easy for you but ulahleke endleleni if you're not doing the self-healing work. I've seen this so many times with so many different people where I'm like, but why ungxamele emoyeni? Because you're spiritual and you're open and you're like, you can see things and you can feel things and you can, that's great, but let's look at your life. Uziphethe kanjani wena? You know, how are you every single day dealing with the reasons that you incarnated into this earth? You know, so I don't know. Like I'll use simple examples. For instance, karma is a real thing to a certain degree. Even though let's not go to karma right now, but let's just look at life right now as it stands. Maybe you're going through aspects of depression, aspects of whatever it might be. That's also an ancestral calling for you to deal with yourself, to sit with yourself, and to resolve things within yourself. And I always say, you know, ndibathanda kakhulu mna abantu that work on themselves ukudlula abantu abomoya. Because if you work on yourself and you heal yourself, like literally you dedicate your life to listening, learning, growing, letting go, breaking cycles, which is what I've dedicated my life to, you know, literally identifying into I need to watch myself here because this is something that I need to work on. So I'm always working on myself, you know. And before I go to my ancestors, you know, because that's life's tests. That's my incarnation objective. I chose to incarnate as a physical human being to deal with and overcome certain things. And then you have support of the right energies, you know. So what I'm trying to say is, but if all you ever did in this lifetime is work on yourself and never touch the ancestors, trust me, you will do more than Abantu that has spent 10 to 20 to 30 years emoyen. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee. You know why? It's because when you heal yourself, you heal them. You heal them. So, in essence, there's this bond between wena nabo. Baza nengxaki zabo bazifake kuwe, your problems, their problems, your challenges, their challenges. So when you look at yourself as a human being, where are you? What's happening in your life? And are you running away from confronting the quote unquote shadow work? This was a theme that came up in the group quite a lot. The shadow aspect of yourself. If you are running away from your shadow work and looking for light work, you've got the formula wrong. You've got it completely wrong. It's not about the light, it's about the shadow, because the shadow is what brings the light. Out of the darkness comes light, and out of the light will come darkness, just like the relationship between the moon and the sun. The moon and the sun, the day and the night. So, especially in Gogo, I mean, according to the shamanic tables, as we move into winter, the best time to do that kind of work is this season right now. You know, this season is literally like the most potent for, if you follow the seasons, we're in autumn, which means it's all about letting go. Like, just like the leaves are falling, just remove all of these things that are happening in your life, sit down. And that's why there's so many messages on the group that are so relevant to letting go or letting things fall, you know. And then in winter, which is where I think moving into winter in a bit, winter is the most beautiful time because it's within. You go within yourself, just like the bear. Think of a bear that hibernates. It's all about recreating yourself in a different way so that when spring comes, you can blossom, you know? And when summer arrives, you can bear the fruits of your labor, of your hard work. But don't run away from the cycles and work with the seasons. For me, the most powerful thing that I've ever learned is what's happening right now within the season. Okay. Ilanga liyakhanya nami, it means it's sunshiny time. It means that I can literally like throw myself out there in terms of who I am and what I am. Whoa, we're moving into autumn. Let's relook things and just like kwenzeka ntoni ngaphakathi kolitha. And then winter, all right, sit now. Let's just hibernate. Let's just, you know, yeah, so we all like this. We're going inside ourselves, you know. So the healing process is so critical, and it's so important that you allow the through you and know where you are. So don't fight the seasons. If you're in a season of darkness, be in the darkness because that's where you're meant to be. If you're in a season of light, be the light for those who are in the darkness, because that's where you need to be. If you're in a season of solitude and silence, be in solitude and silence. If you're in a season of reaping the rewards for all your labor and all your hard work, reap, but pull others up with you. Tamako.
Tamako, Tata Tamako. I think le part we touch your seasons, and that's basically what we've been trying to do in the group Ubuntu circle. Is that we need to, like I always say, is that it's important for us to recognize the seasons. That's so true. Because each season, there's different works that we're supposed to do as part of healing. And so rightly said is that now we had to do a lot of healing and we got triggered. We had to redo some of the work. I actually got triggered again yesterday because someone I was dealing with actually got to trigger me because I'm like, this is the same reason that I left this other relationship and this person is triggering me. It's just a highlight of the areas that I thought I have healed from, but obviously the trigger just says that I haven't really healed. because I should be able to be in a position where I can just, just acknowledge that, oh gosh, all right. But now I had to almost like trying to protect myself because like I feel that this person is putting me out of balance. But anyway, that is that. I think with the seasons, I think you've said enough. I don't think I need to say anything, but Tata, I think Siani Duitacha Lenda rites of passage, because that's one of the things that should be helping us in terms of aligning us to be in alignment with ourselves and also with our ancestors, because it's very important that we come to them. It's like I'm trying to think of a scenario apho abantu bakholwayo bayisebenzisayo, but we need to be in alignment with self and also an alignment with the ancestors. So I think it's important that ndicela uyekela kuwe tata, because mna ndizokwazi ungena kakhulu, ndazi imbeleko neentoni, there's certain things
All right.
that are only that I can think of the names also in, because rites of passage, not everyone understands the term. That's what I've realized as well, is that there are these rituals that we're supposed to do to be in right standing with self and for healing, so that we are, we are living a fulfilled life, healthy lives. Because I think one of the things that I've realized is that when we are young, I only got to know about it much later in life, that ikhona imbeleko, but there's also one where people should be initiated ngendlela ethile, to come before your ancestors, emilandeni and whatever. So those kind of things are important, so that even coming, okay, actually, ndifuna uqala apha, there's a part where we forget that is also linked to, I don't know whether we call this a ritual, but when someone is born, and obviously it's born out of a mother and a father, then there's the process where people are supposed to pay damages if you are outside of the marriage environment as the parents. And then there's also the part where if you are not inside the marriage environment, then badali damages. So if you are inside, it's part of the thing, because the person, the child is then born into that. So from that stage going to adulthood, there's a couple of milestones that are linked to certain rituals that we should be observing to be in right standing. Because sometimes you see abantwana bengekho right and not be able to trace where did the problem start from. But it's because of these things that we have not acknowledged that we should be in good standing. So I think I don't know if you want to labor on this, but I know that we are on 46 minutes, but thank you for that.
Now, with all due respect, I think that inkulu kakhulu lo topic, and it's a journey on itself. And so I think let's reserve another day to dive deep into rites of passage, because if we do it now, we're going to be here for another 3 hours. It's such an intricate. But I'd also like to respect and honor it, because it's such a powerful thing that basize nabantu abanzulu kuyo. I know there's a couple of elders. Uzola, for instance, is very, very knowledgeable around those things, as am I, but it would be interesting if we had diverse views, singaibambi. But right now, let's focus on the relationships with the ancestors. I think that would be a good thing. So we'll move on to the final aspect before we open the floor up, which would be around community. We've spoken about the ancestors, we've spoken about self, but community, Yo, um, this says Lalini now as we speak, and for me, it's the most interesting thing to individualistic approach, which is the very, it's all about I, yeah, bon? And then there's the African approach, which is very communal, yeah, bon? Is ba kunyanzelekile sihlangane nabantu, kunyanzelekile sibe in spaces like these, and when you're in spaces like these, for me, my main question that I used to sit and ask my ancestors, and I still do to a large degree, is, but okay, what is the purpose and what is the point? So ndihlale phansi ndibukele if bakhona ilihotla, for instance, or khona ingxoxo, which is basically like a space where they gather and they talk within the village, you know, and I noticed that each single person has got a role to play, you know, and no one is greater than, it's not a hierarchy experience. And so, community from an African perspective is A, understanding your role. What is your role within this community? And you can't get that if you are not in good relationship with your ancestors and not in good relationship with yourself. Because once you know yourself, then at least you'll know what gift you carry. And once you are in good relationship with your ancestors, then at least you'll know how that gift will play out, because they will lead you and they will guide you. And often they will force you, they'll force you because I'm a male. So, and then you can get into community where you know your role. I always used to say, like some of my mentors that I spend time with, Ankh, Ankh, anyway, he always says, each one teach 20, not each one teach one. So don't take. It is not, ayobo ubuntu, uba ufike apha and you just take, take, take. Take and go out and give, so that the cycle continues, so that we don't end off, you know, in this taker's mentality, which is very Western concept. It's about enriching the self. From an African perspective, it's about enriching community, because naxa ndinezinto zizinto sethu sonke, ubutyebi bam bubutyebi bethu, because I'll never let you struggle or suffer. If I unakutya, you just literally come and ask, and then people will give you. That's Ubuntu. That's how we are as Africans. But beyond the niceness of it all is zazi. Yo, nyanzelekile uzazi within the community space. What are you bringing? You know? And what value are you adding to those that are listening to you right now? Within this community, we've got a beautiful group that's growing. Are you sharing your 2 cents worth? Because when you give, you receive. When you are in community, you bring the fullness of yourself. You have to bring the fullness of yourself. Awunokwazi uvese kufika uthathe okokoko uhlute utyebe and then uhambe uzazi uba wena uright. It's all about us growing together. And that was one of the biggest visions and dreams that my ancestors showed me. It's like, masibuyiseni ubukhosi. And ubukhosi was basically a space, ubukhosi obviously, is a space where all of us are a wealthy nation. We like to call ourselves kings and queens, but we don't act like kings and queens. It's like Sisi hip stars, it's like, yeah, yes, queen, yes, grand rising. And I used to hate that term, because for me it's like uziphethe kanjani and how are we operating within this community space. Because grand rising literally means that, oh, grand, let's rise. To me, uh, don't tell me grand rising ungakho grand and we're not rising together and you're rising alone. That doesn't work. So it's important that in a community space sikwazi ukuncedana, you know and it's so important, because xa sibuyisa ubukhosi, those are the principles and those are the values that our ancestors always lived by. Ubuntu being the greatest one of them all. Ukuphakamisa abanye was the greatest one of them all. Ukungahlupheki kwabanye. Xa uhlupheka emoyeni, when you are having difficulties in the spirit, speak out on the group, so that Utabisu Kona and there are many others like her and I, and we don't own the space. It's not our space. It says you're Yam Tabisa just because we put up a Zoom link. It's yours because you're part of the community. And if you want to do something for the community, then speak up and do it. Just like Utabisa called me and said, "Hey, Lita, Fumba Sense and Lendo the land." I was like, "Okay, let's do it," and here we are today. So don't be a bystander because was this pure cycle. When you are a bystander not participating, you're not living up to your ancestral gift, number one, and you're not living up to the purpose of your incarnation, number two, and number three, you're not feeding the spirit of who you are to the community that needs you. I'm not saying that this is the community that you should give yourself fully to. My goal is to have 10 communities, 20 communities, 100 communities, you know, where I share myself in each and every single one of them. Oh, okay, it makes sense. And then I go share it with the other community, you know? So build community. That's how we've lived. That's how we've always lived. That's how our ancestors lived. Be a part of community. Balekile Lord. But I'll end off with this one, I promise this time, then we can open it up. Don't be a bystander. Siyacela, siyacela, siyacenga. Khula nathi. Usikhulise nathi. Camako.
Camako tata, ndicela ukungena kwakhona. So I think just to make it clear, so if we decide to be consumers and not take part or even stand up to or take the roles that we've been given, I think a lot of people have been looking for understanding the role yabo and their purpose in life. And that is also tied to what you've been given as your mission. So if you are not going to utilize the opportunities that you are given to express yourself, I mean, including the healing and whatever else that the work that we are doing under this spirituality, when you need to then report on the other side, what are we like? What kind of an ancestor that are we going to be? Are we really then leaving a legacy of a lineage as I'll be healed, starting with your kids and generations after? You know, so I think Glendo purpose, like I'm just thinking in a community sake where we need inhlabi, you know, someone that's going to slaughter what, and someone knows that they've got this gift and they decide to keep it or to withhold it. Are you adding value? Are you living the purpose that you were supposed to? So I think I wanted to just end off by saying that, is that really now, like they say, must contribute to make the thing to contribute towards something and not really be about taking or just reserving and watch. There's a time for that. I think a lot of us has experienced that when we were still learning a couple of things, but at some point you must contribute one thing. You must wake up with something that you want to contribute. And I'm not saying to this group only, but I just mean in community setup. Yeah, so I think that I think it's time to really open it up. It's up to you now. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions? No? Any comments?
Molweni.
Molo!
Enkosi kakhulu Butlita nawe Sisithabisa for setting up this session. I was very excited. Once you mention that word 80 ancestors, I become very excited. As umuntu osando kungena kule journey who's still ebumnyameni in a way, not really ebumnyameni, but I'm still learning a lot. Yeah. So yeah, enkosi kakhulu. So ndinombuzo andiyazi no because ndijoyine late. Ndinombuzo omncinci nje kweyam ndibuze nje kweyam imeko kulaa ndawo ithi we must be careful singasetyenziswa zii-ancestors ngohlobo lazo. We have to train them. We have to create a relationship nabo and we teach them on how to get relationship esifuna uba nayo nabo because this is our journey. I hope ndikuve right, Butlita. This is our journey. We need to live our purpose. So ke ngoku afunekanga sivumele ukusetyenziswa for i-purpose zabanye abantu, which is imimoya iminyanya leyo. Now ndine problem ke ngoku when it comes to that because I've just discovered that the father who brought me up was not my biological father. I've got another father, and this biological father is coming through now. My understanding is he is in trouble that side. Now he needs my assistance. And the way Nkhuliswe ngayo is that now that ndingukatata, which is Tata Chapter no Mamam, Tatam, which is the one who brought me up. Now that I'm no longer his biological child, now the biological father is now uyavela wanting and my assistance. So how do you deal with that? How do I deal with that? Because remember, that is my blood as well. And I also love him as much as I love the one who brought me up, who made me who I am. Physical world. But how do I not care for that one? On the Shile, my entire life, one Shia kutatam. Yeah, mandime apho. I hope you question yami icacile.
Sister Bisa, would you, Mama, or should I take it away?
Hayi tata, ndicela uyiphendule. Mna bendinoyihambe, but ndicela uyiphendule tata.
Okay, I want to be clear, ne? And City, we train them, we do all these things. I'm not saying good imitato ayiko. There are rules, there are regulations, there are, there's this massive respectful way of dealing with our ancestors, and we have every right to question. That's the leeway. And Ichba, trainer as those is, I just want to make that clear, Uguti, it's a relationship. It's not a dictatorship. Yabon? Siyakwazi ukusebenza nabo ngendlela esiphilisayo nathi engasibulaliyo. What's the point of like giving so much to them and being empty and hollow and feeling like dying? So my whole thing is like, let's find a middle ground between the both of us where we're both happy, and that's possible. Moving along, in terms of umuntu okubizayo, when you are in a process of being called by someone, I always say the first step is to check in with the self. Where are you, and are you strong enough to be able to do the work? If not, seek help. We don't say that just because someone has not lived well or died, we forget about them. No. Because they still are family. They're still a critical part of the ecosystem that makes you a human being. So into ebalulekileyo is for you to check in and ask yourself, am I spiritually mature enough to do the work that is required? Yes, no. If yes, can you show me what is required? And then again you check in. Am I spiritually mature enough to do this work? Yes, no. If yes, where do I start and how do I start? If no, seek help. There's nothing wrong with ucela umuntu akuncede. That's why Utabisa is around, I'm around, and there are many other amazing people. But let us not forget our people. It's important. So I do work where I heal all the ancestral lineages. That's my job. It's like I literally take people through processes that heal the entire lineages, and we find the shortcomings. Right? So there's two approaches that I've found with this kind of work. The first one is when you have a practitioner do the work for you. Wisangoma or wherever it is, bakwenzele umsebenzi on your behalf, right? That's the most common one amongst African practices, where there's a practitioner that does the work for you. The second approach is when you find someone, ozogu bambela, hold space for you to do the work yourself. So you journey and meet these different people, and you are the one that does the work. But there's someone ongasemva kwakho, so in case there's anything that you can't handle, uza ngaphambili akususele loo nto, or it ends, whatever it is. And there's so many different technologies that can help us with this. I mean, plant medicine is a powerful one. It means, man, I promise you, there's so many different tools that we can use. But the most important thing is we never, ever, ever leave the dead that need help. to just be there, but we check in with ourselves. Ngixolela mna anikabikho rayithi okwangoku, ngicela uye komnye umntu okanye uthandazele izithwele ezilungileyo zikwazi ukumnceda yena. Uyayiphahlela loo nto. And then you get help elsewhere, whatever it is, but don't do nothing, do something. If they're coming to you, it might be very important for you and for your journey. Camako. Tabis.
Camako, Dad. Bendifuna ukutsho nje tata that ancestral stuff, that's why utata ulitha elapha. Maybe that's also his topic. For me, just because ndine connection nabo, he's the right practitioner, and so are the other people that he might refer us to. Yeah, ndizawuhle masinike the next person whose hand is up.
Yeah, Samsung Galaxy A10.
Samsung.
Hello, Samsung. So, I think you're on mute.
Cela uthethe Samsung bevakala nje. Samsung 10,
Yeah.
please, come through.
Okay, let's move on. Maybe uzobuya, maybe they raised their hand by mistake. Is there anybody else that would like to ask a question?
I'm trying to see hands. Ngosilwazi. Hey, again, you've hidden yourself. Okay. I think Mpumi has got her hand up.
Hey, Mpumi!
Grand Rising.
The grand must rise, Joe. Must rise.
I like that you touched on this one. Hi, Sister Bisa.
Hello, sis. And this says out grand rising though, because I rise.
It's great. Yeah,
like
grand, and you're rising and you're ensuring that others are. Sorry, after you.
Most definitely, Putlita. Thank you so much for such a beautiful and nani, but I think in total 10-15 minutes later, but I managed to pick up quite a lot. Thank you so much. Oh, Grand Rising, I just want to touch on that one. It always used to also just rub me the other way. But up until my people came, and wow, the way they explained it and the way they showed me, it's like Grand Rising all the way through. I now never stop because I'm born Ndebele. So Tina ngesikithi masibingelela, we are actually saying Grand Rising. Sithi siyabavusa abantu, sithi vukani. So that's how we greet. So there's no greeting without rising the people. So sometimes noma uhlangana ne-relative ekudala wayigcina or noma ufona, so I'll phone my mother-in-law because she's also Ndebele. And all I say to her is, I bengifonela ukunivusa, to rise you up. And it's such a beautiful thing whereby when they actually even showed me about it, my people, they even said, I think if the more we get used to going back to this type of greeting, it is people will even come out of depression because your whole mission is to raise this person up, because this person is down and all you're doing is just checking on them, and not just checking in, but it's just to raise them up and making sure that you are putting them at a certain point in a certain position. So it's a beautiful term. It used to rub me off the other way, but up until I got to understand. So I was touched by Sislo I think she made me to remember something, and I just want to share this. I don't know if it will maybe also add on to what Ubutlita said in adding in terms of my ancestors, lo unjena, lo ukanjena, and the Ubutlita explainer ukuthi he doesn't mean we like train them. There's still protocol, there's still laws to be followed or what, but he says it's a relationship. And I've had two dreams that depicts what Ubuntu. I said I just want to share them quickly. I'll keep them short. So I dreamt one of my in-laws person or Shonile, and she's trying to come through. And as she is trying to come through, abakubo, her immediate family, are still very much Christian, basindisiwe and stuff and stuff and stuff. So she's coming through to me and she's saying, Mpumi, cela ubatshele, and with hope, yokuthi obvious, I'll be able to say to them, hey, your people your person, your relative, your sister on the other side, this is what's happening. At that time, when she appeared to me, I must say, I didn't know how to handle it. Well, I told my husband and say, your family members has appeared, and this is what she is saying. I don't know where I'm gonna start with this one because we are abantu bakubo ukuthi banjani. And then just to cut that one, and then subsequently, Joba no Putlita Ashkut, we need to work on ourselves and don't do it. So months later, I get another dream, but I'm now much better. I've cultivated certain things, and I've also learned to in my dreams I can also communicate and be able to be in control of certain things. But that's another subject. We are not there today. But I'm at that point. Then I get this dream now about my own relatives. So khona ifamily yami yakamamncane wami, they had their last born child umamncane washona lo mntwana. I think wamthola azange aphile isikhathi eside, asisho kanjalo, azange ayiqede 6 months or into enjalo nje. So lo mntwana washona many years ago. So this child now appears to me and she says, hi, nguzibani, and you obviously know in the dreams umuntu uyamazi already mawumbona. So ngithi, oh, how sewukhulile. I'm like, wow. No, ngize ngombiza nangegama, wow. And then she says to me, I need you to tell unabosisi ke bonke kuba, I think because about number 5 or number 6 kubo, but they are all girls. And she was saying to me, I need you to tell my sisters ukuthi ngikhona, and I would like to connect with them. And once again, nabo labo abo Christian sindisiwe so nje abafuni next ngale zinto lezo. And but amazing in that dream job because I had done the work on myself and I'm growing all the time. Lapho ke I actually told you, I won't be able to help you. You know your sisters, you know them. What I even suggested, look, I understand into show you what I'm suggesting you do. Thola indlela yokuziveza wena kubo. Maungathola wena indlela yokuthi babone wenze something ukuthi babone ukuthi wuwe, and they start talking about it, it will give me indlela yokuyingena bese nami ngithi no, I know about this. But mina nje on my own ngibasukele ngiyobatshela ngawe, you want to connect with them and knowing them ukuthi banjani nensindiso yabo, I won't be able to. And then ever since that dream, I've kept myself open to say anytime they speak about such an instance, I'm ready to step in and help this fellow departed sister wabo to say, I know about this and this is what's happening. So I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying or what. I just thought I would share. Thank you.
Enkosi Sisiphumi. Kwenzeke ntoni ngoku? Vele yashift. Okay. So I think thank you for that. I think for mna Shemla Grand Rising, Bless Rise, oh my gosh, just does something versus good morning, for example. Yeah, so but thank you for that story. I think it's very difficult and it's actually sad, and these are the people that when they depart sometimes, the ones that have neglected the connection with their ancestors, this is where it gets to be a challenge, and this is where there's almost like a curse with families when they need to leave. Now izinto zabantu who are remaining ziba kwenye state. So these are the people that we are hoping that eventually with a lot of people that are waking up, they're going to come to realize that ukungafuni kwabo accept and acknowledge that into the ancestors. I mean, if abayilungu baya acknowledge this part about themselves, how much more about us? So for me, this is the sad part. Yes, nambeni umzalwane for years, for 40 years, but eventually, you know, they benze a sign ezinkulu such that we have to pay attention to them. And I think what Sis Mpumi there is saying, eventually that person, that deceased soul, will shake the rest of the family up such that they go and hear ukuthi what is causing ezo zinto zalo family ihambe wrong. Basically, what she's asked that child or that soul is that shake them up so that they can listen to you. Because nyani, when we talk sometimes, I know even namnendo the astrology, when I speak to other people, abandiva because we are different wavelengths, you know. So, but when izinto zibahita so hard, whether it's material or they get like something, and I'm not saying we must invite that, like near-death experiences, then people are shaken up and they want to look for answers. And I think that's what most probably sometimes happens, so that we get to acknowledge your role, your ancestors, and be able to cultivate their relationship. Yeah, bonati. Obviously, it starts by you and yourself, and then we really then expand to ancestors and the communities, like the topic of the day. But enkosi Sisipumi, mandiyekele uTata uLitha.
Yeah, no. It's Sis Bumi, all I'll ask is, there's two things that come up for me. The first one is you know, the greatest thing that colonialism or colonialists did to us was undermine the power of language yethu, because asithetha thina, there is a vibration and a frequency and a resonance, and it goes beyond just the words that we speak, which is what you were saying. You know, ngesintu, in your own language, it sounds different. It sounds powerful. It sounds effective. In English, aye. You know, abelungu zabe ngabhadlanga, unfortunately. No, let me not say that. I'm just kidding. But they were perhaps not as spiritually aware as we were, you know, in terms of the words, because there's certain words that we use that are just so powerful. So thank you so much for helping me understand grand rising in a different manner, in many different words. Oh,
Pleasure.
and the second one is, I invite you to teach us more about that at some point. I'd love to hear. It seems like now you've got a lot that's happening in terms of the dreamscapes, in terms of the language understanding as
Yes.
well. So I
Yes,
just
most
invite you
definitely. I
to.
would love to. We can put something together. I would love to.
Wonderful, wonderful. And anybody else as well who's got something to share. This is, like I said, the more we give, the more we grow. Yes, I'm so happy. Matepo, I was going to pick on you. Yes! Do we get to see your face today? Please tell me you get to see your face today. No. Last time was Vimbi Lematsepo. Aye.
She was
Aye,
there.
Alivu.
She was there on Saturday, Tata uLitha. You were just not
But
there. When we turned up on Saturday, she
I
was there.
didn't
We
see her
came.
face. That's
You were
Vimbi
there.
Lubuso Baya Komatsepo.
Mama Tsepo, come on.
Here I am. Wow. I think there's so much that has come up for me. One is our families, our families, they have too many secrets. And it gets to the point that when the secrets are there, it is these blockages that happen from a generational aspect. And as you grow up as a person, you then starting to have to piece things together. And piecing things together, understanding, like the first lady that spoke, I forgot her name, where she talked about she only found out now about her father, her true father.
But if she has to go deeper, her true father, same thing might have happened. So there are these things that are there that we need to deal with, and I feel that it even affects the next generation to come, because there's these gaps that are left by the family members, and it's almost like we have to now start doing the physical work, the cleansing, the finding out. And sometimes it becomes so deep. In the past couple of years, I have seen so many people having these big fragments of their lives being stripped off to say, because of this situation, this has risen up, and they're in turmoil because they still have to now get to the point of understanding who their identical father is, and how do they pasha, how do they do all these things. And it becomes very, very hard for one to basically associate and try and find ways of how do you then get to this aspect of what is the right way of ukupahla, because now you belong now to a different family lineage, because it was never said before. And now you have to go back a couple of, let me not say even centuries, I would be wrong to say centuries. You now have to start seeking and finding those family members who can therefore guide you in the direction that you need to lead. And what you thought was your truth is no longer your truth. And for me, how does one therefore get to the point of finding out their true identity? Because that starts there. Then you find yourself in the process and find who you really are and your true essence and your true gifting, so that you can be the person that you are supposed to be. Thank you. That's just me in a mouthful. I know I said quite a lot. So how does one therefore get to that point of understanding? Where do you begin?
Mama?
Zayithatha?
Oh, ndithethe
Zayithatha?
kakhulu. Oh, ilwimi lam liblue.
I don't know. So I think reference kakhulu kwinto ibithethwa ngusisindiswa, which is around the father. So, but I think in terms of, I think for me, I would say because when ndingumntana, so I was born within umtshato, but it does not mean because I am, in my case, I still only use my mother's side because that's what I've been introduced to, and luckily my active ancestors are coming from that side. So I think to answer her, I think ikakhulu ngutata uLitha that will be able to address, but I'm going to make my example, is that izinto did not necessarily fall apart because, in my case, because of my not aligning to my dad's side, in my case. I suppose they have a role to play in my life, but again, who's active for me is my mother's side's lineage. So the falling apart, I think I'm going to go back to what you were saying, is that it had to take something or someone to actually pull the rug, so that because they've been communicating, but you know, when you are thinking, this thing, I know that you get these messages irrespective of mapupa, and messages when you are busy with other stuff. But we didn't know that even the gifts that we've gotten are coming from the ancestors. Yes, aphelela Jesus and whatever else, but I think coming back, the ancestors, yes, I understand that, but also there's a whole part where when someone is trying to find themselves, you also need, there's the ancestral part, which I'll leave to that later kakulu, but you know, there's things that beyond that, astral things that we must connect to. When I'm saying that, I mean, we might be able to still direct our way. So I think if I have to make an example, there's a time that I went to see a medium, and part of what I was going through compared to what Isangoma told me, the medium that I met with, she said, in terms of my stars, I am misaligned. That got me thinking. Yes, after that, I then went to the Sangoma initiation, but that didn't take anything. I mean, I don't think I've gotten anything. Anyway, I've got my own bruises from that experience, and it doesn't take away the role that the Sangoma initiation or whatever else it does. But when I then, because I think I had this thing, I don't know whether it started from that lady, because I knew, because I was in a search of looking, how do I then correct the things that were happening in my life. Did I do it, Oh, okay. I'm going to leave it at that. But I wanted to say is that sometimes it's also best to look at other ways of how can you align and align yourself to come to know yourself. There's ancestral, there's positioning yourself according to other ways. You can explore that.
You know, mna ndingumuntu simple kakhulu. Snotsep. I always say like start with where you are. What do you have that's available to you right now? Build a solid foundation with what's available to you right now. Once you feel confident in the foundation that you've built, start asking questions for assistance to fill the gaps. But too often what we do is we move so fast to parts that are beyond our control, you know, and we don't have a solid foundation. And umama sithu Thabisa sithu uba, you know, she started off with her mother's side, which is good because at least that's solid and they're coming through strongly. So work with that. But that's not to say ignore the other parts. But once the foundation is solid, then you can move and ask questions alongside the other aspects. I hope I'm moving towards the direction of your question. Please chime in if I'm lost a little bit. Yeah,
Yes, you're good.
am
Thanks.
I going the right way?
Yes,
And
you are.
then around Upahla, because this is so fascinating for me. This is a subject that I've been exploring for some time. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Matsepo? Or
No, I'm still fine. Still
okay,
listening.
perfect. Around Upahla, you know, you're right. There's so many different ways. There's a billion different ways. Yet again, start with where you are. I don't know. Now I've got this. Maybe they're pambana, but I've got this really interesting relationship with my ancestors where I believe that they're there and they're right here with me all the time, and we have conversations. You know, we have very deep conversations, and and I always say thank God for COVID because now I can wear a mask and walk in the street and no one can see I'm talking to my ancestors. You know, but it's simple. I think we've complicated it so much. Uh, Eastern Cape, for instance, Siangula, which is basically utet. Utet. You just literally like, we don't need the mpepo. We don't need all of these different things, you know. The best way to patla is just to speak your heart. Speak your heart. Just tap into your heart. Just tap into your heart and then speak and say, uh, and so a lot of people don't have isithakazelo zabo 100% or isiduko zabo or the long ancestral lineage. You know what I always say? Stick to the surnames then, because that's enough. That should be enough to call all of them down, right? Because they all share the same surname. Uboy, dadla ngokuthi mina uboy or no dada or soizwapi, you know? Whatever it might be. At least I've called the four lineages there. Nina bakwaboy sondelani ngasecango kwakho. Nina bakwanodada sondani ngasecango kwakho. Ngasecango kwam, you know? And once I've done that, at least I'm calling them in with the name that they've all shared. And of course, I'm very clear that I'm calling in the right ones, you know, Ababa Pillai, Ababa Pilisai, and all those different things, you know, doing the checks and making sure that we don't bring the dark deceased. And then once that's done, you know, these guys are so good as well. They'll send you on missions to find out informations. You might think it's just a nice thing, all the time. The real work is not necessarily when you're calling them in. The real work is when you're doing what they're asking of you. You know, so simplify your life. Start with where you are, and build a solid foundation. then fix the cracks. If you are strong or Africa, then go for that. Bring them in. If you're not so strong and you feel lost because my I don't know who my dad is, because my mom and my dad split up, and now ndenzelanga imbeleko ndenzelanga zonke izinto, the rites of passages, I don't know how to do them. Start with where you are and then explore there. Build a solid foundation, but always ask questions. I always say now I'm like an investigator, and the best thing you could ever do for yourself is become an ancestral detective. It's so much fun. You get to learn and find out so much, but be prepared to travel. Be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to be pushed out of the norms. Be prepared to, hey, if you fight to struggle, be prepared to, yeah, I could go on forever. Sister Bisa, I'm sure I can go on forever. So I hope that helps you. Just start with where you are, because they're just as desperate as you are for you to connect with them and to be healed. Trust you me. They're so, so desperate, and they need you as much as you need them. Come up.
Thank you. Cool. I think, sorry, one last thing I want to say. The one thing I should say, which I've learned through part of the journey, is I think it was 2009. I was paralyzed from head to toe. I had an issue whereby my mind was functioning, but I couldn't move. I was in ICU for about 2 weeks. But however, in that moment of stillness, I think at that point I was at a chance of 50-50 chance of surviving, because there was a point whereby while I was in my mind, I was walking up this path where there was someone behind me, like my guide following me. I couldn't see the guide, but I felt his presence around me. And at that point in time, I felt like I came back. Not really, I felt like I actually came back from where I was. And it made me realize, I mean, as they say, out of body experience, but it made me also realize the importance of one's life and allowing yourself to feel your guides, to feel your ancestors, and to be directed by them. I was so in tune with my space during that point in time, because even till this day, my doctors don't even know how I actually got healed. No medication could heal me. My body had to heal itself, but I got 100% recovery, and they're still in awe till this day. So I can attest to say, yes, I was pushed to the limit. And yes, when I was pushed, yeah, they were tapping me in such a way to say, wake up, you have to rise. Thank you.
Camako, sis wam. Camako, sis. I think that's so true, and that's what I was saying, is that sometimes they bring these experiences, and most of the time we always have these questions: why me? Why do I have to go through? Have they left me? Why are they not protecting? But really, what they're trying to do when they push us towards the experiences in Gianna that are probably most of the time life-changing, is that they're trying to, so we need to be at a space where we are matured and actually look for the lessons, see how you've met them. That was so awesome. That was so awesome. And there's something that was triggered in you to have this faith, like doctors could not help you. And the reality of the matter is that I think Notejo, during the weekend, we were in another wellness session where they were just doctors and talking about medication according to pharmaceutical. And I said, come on, can we not talk about natural healing? There's ways that people can heal, like how Usis Matsepo has healed. So can we not downplay this thing, because it's so real? Some of us can attest to that. So ndifuna ukuthi ke siswam ndiyabulela that you've come through to explain and share that experience with us in terms of how you've managed to come out of that without necessarily needing, without necessarily needing, because one of the things that I must say, Dada, what I want to say, and I cannot leave the session without saying this, there are so many things that we tend to do, and sometimes silibala ukuthi aba bantu sihamba nabo bayabona yonke into esiyenzayo, they see the intention. So we need to be able to be conscious around that what we are carrying is really them, and they are always there, including the whatever we want to say, the creator or divine. So there's really nothing that we're going to hide away from them, because when we do as a shortcut, sometimes we are opening ourselves up to the bad type of karma. And it's one thing that I wanted to not end the session without saying. I know he has touched on this, but I think it's important that I also just tap on it, because I know that it's one of the points that I did want to say that I wanted to talk about, is that just let's try and live a life is simple, that's transparent, and into ehambela esengqondweni nesenhliziyweni be the same. We mustn't think that we'll be able to jeopardize the system because it's clever, or some of the people that are living in the physical that have not really have or are privy to the spiritual side, that everything is senza. If ndicinga ngoku ndifuna ubala amanzi and no one is watching, just know that it's engraved here within ourselves. And so whatever we do, if Situma Sajiparisha, it's got a potential to come back to us, good or bad. Thank you.
Oh, you can't even hear me. We'll take one more. Uchanta. Khanta! Khanchi. Agar ke Khanchi. Did I say it right?
Can't say.
Khanchi! Khanchi, can we see you? Did we see it the last time? Oh, yeah, we did. We did, yeah.
Wait, guys, I'm going to show you my face now.
Yay!
Hi.
Yay! How are you?
Good, thanks. And you guys?
Good. Makhatebe.
Yeah, so I was listening to Osma Tsepa right now, no? And I just thought how much I relate to her story. For me, I think I got called at a very young age, actually. Most probably I was 7, 8. And then I started going through a series of misfortunes, like accidents, and then I was having epileptic fits. And my parents, obviously, they were more of the Christian side. But lucky for me, my grandmother was still alive, and she, I don't know how to say it in English, but like they asked for them to, it doesn't wake up as much as it does. The calling doesn't take over as much as it does. And so, yeah, by Kokobet. And then it stopped from that age up until I hit maybe 22. Yeah, 22. When the father of my twins passed on. How that happened is, as you know, when you don't know that what's happening. I mean, it stopped for so long that I couldn't even realize my intuition and my ancestors are literally the same thing. And I hear this voice and it asks me, if he passes, will you cope? And in passing, you just go like, yeah, I'll cope. And then you move on with life. And he passes a week later. I'm like, I should have done something because I knew this a week ago, but I didn't think it meant anything. So then from that moment onwards, I was still very much Christian. So I knew, like, if a thought like that comes to mind, I start asking or praying in a way of saying, no, let that not happen. And then it would help. Fast forward to when I get to a marriage. This is when I realized, no, this is bigger than just thoughts happening in me. I get attacked by a lot of negative entities. Where I was, people most probably, I always hear them saying, your star shines so bright, people will test you out because of that. And yeah, I had I think 3 near-death experiences. And those experiences made me to turn back and go, let me just see the other side. This ancestral things. I know that this happened when I was 8. My grandmother was always Ubuntu, like not traditional. It was like a person Christian like, and all of a sudden she did a ritual for me to kokobeta things, and things stopped. So obviously there's something here. We need to start looking at what's going on, and that's what triggered my journey onto the ancestral roots.
the traumatic experiences that got my attention. And now I think I'm at a point where I'm at the most peaceful part of my life. And it could be because I have a, what we call a humorous relationship with them. I find them, they have a humorous type of way of doing things. They laugh at tragedies and it's relaxing. I can cry on my own sometime when it hits hard, but in general, it's a very humorous, very light, very peaceful type of energy. And yeah, that's what I just wanted to explain and share with you. But I think it's because of Osmatsepo saying she went through that moment of paralysis that I'm thinking I kind of went through something similar, but not really. It was just a traumatic experience that pushed it to the point where I recognized that there's something going on. Yeah, that's it.
Mama, cela uthethe.
Umna ngokuthatha ulitha. I think Inkosi ngoshera Khanse, thanks a lot. I think that singarepa up ngoku. I think she was just adding on to into bithetha nguMatsepo. Yeah, but I think I just want to note a couple of comments that people left on the chat box. There's one person asking, there's a person asking how to align. So I think Mankalinga Galwazi, he was saying that ucela kubekho i-session that we must address, or someone needs to address into ye father trauma. And then there's a person that's also asking that how do we align with one's star sign? I think with regards to that, I know this is a session here ancestral, but there's a lot that work that we can do in terms of meditation, that we can work around that. You align. I think as much as you want to align, that's just you discovering things about yourself that would have been impacting your personality. So all these things, you know, the planets that we talk about, what we learn there is the different personalities of the planets and the seasons that they run and what relationship they have with us. So I think I'll be able to answer you by this direction, is that we need to be able to get to that. I think what I will recommend with that is that let's sit through a discussion your birth chart, and then I'll take you through. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're gonna wrap up in a bit, but I just wanted to say, so it's okay. I'm trying to sum it up very quickly because this is a conversation in itself. In near-death experiences and critical moments in your life, and all of these things, of course, most of you would be aware, are what we call sometimes the shamanic deaths, or the death, because you die. Because if you look at your life before whatever happened to you, to what happened after, you died. Like literally, it's a transformation. You die, like fully, and in life you'll go through many critical moments like that. I forgot what the term is, but there's a specific one. And there's an exercise that I used to do in my shamanic training where they used to say, look back into your life and all of these critical moments. Understand and analyze who you were before and who you are now. What are the gifts and the blessing of these experiences? And we used to go so deep into it, you know, and we break it apart and understand, Uguti, now, who is it that was trying to come through for you in that way? And what were they trying to teach you? Were you not listening? You know, like there's such beauty within the shamanic death, or the death, I just call them the shamanic death for lack of better words, you know. So I'm sure each and every single one of us wouldn't be on this call if something didn't happen to us at some point. There you go. Laws, different terms of throwing it out there. Yeah, I think it might be laws, yes. It might be the quantum collapse process. But whatever it is, like, it's what forces you into alignment. And right now, I'm going to ask Usis Tabisa to end off by explaining from an astrological point, because clearly there's like something greater that's happening that the cosmos is literally saying and doing to us. What's happening? Like every time I'm stuck, I always ask her. So help us out. Tell us about these quantum processes, and then we'll end off with that. Tama?
So that ndiyazi nokubuza nge-transits or what's taking place now. Obviously, with the Mercury retrograde, we also stepped into Gemini season ruled by Mercury. That ndiyazi ephi le part ufuna ndithethe, but I think there are those universal. I think we've been sharing a lot in the group in terms of what we are, the healing that we've been doing the past couple of weeks in terms of shadow work. That's, in terms of how the Mercury retrograde has an influence in terms of bringing the subconscious mind or subconscious things, traumas, and all these kind of things. And that's the kind of healing that we are going through. We also see that we have Pluto that started, I think, 29th of April. That's also gone retrograde. And that's the planet that's really responsible for transformation. So I think there's a couple of transits that are taking place. They are inviting us to do certain things. That's why I will always say, just understand the season and what we are meant to do during that season. Don't work against it, because you're only, sabotaging yourself. I've noticed that there's a couple of people that I work with that I've said to him, so there's that school that's being put together currently. And I said, just lie low for now, because we are now, so this was the season year Taurus ruled by Venus. People are not in a mood to do serious stuff. Forget about it for now. Let's start in Gemini season, because then the season itself, there's the support that we get from the universe and from cosmos is that Mercury then gives us the ability to actually do detail work. We want to do thinking, we want to do business transactions and whatever. So the previous time was just allowing us to, the Taurus season time ruled by Venus was just allowing us to sit within, heal and whatever. Now, be active, and that's why you're going to see a lot of collaborations, a lot of work that's been done from Gemini. So the one that's coming after that, obviously it's Cancer season. There's also other stuff that will be, that's ruled by the moon. There's stuff that we need to work on. So each season, because when we move away from just understanding horoscopes, then we go into astrology. We now understand that these are the seasons that we must acknowledge. And for each season, there's certain work, healing work that we must do. Also allowed to do activities here and there. So you look for those gaps and then you go for it during the times that you are given to be able to be supported. And that's why they call it work smart, because then you don't have to go against the energies that are available. That's what I can say for now. Thank you, Dad.
On that note, I think we can pretty much, I'll leave you with these words, which are my favorite words of all times in terms of just the ancestors and relationship. Remember, it's meant to be fun. It's not heavy as we make it out to be. It's light because it's light work. It's light because it's light work, and most importantly, do the self-healing, because it makes it easier for you to have a lighter relationship with your ancestors. I can guarantee you, if you don't do the self-healing, you'll interact and bump with challenges along the way.
It's actually called denial, because we are invited to those healing spaces or times. But I know a couple of people that really refused and denied what they're supposed to be going through, because they're trying to escape their emotional part, which they cannot handle. And that's the part of them not wanting to learn and heal. That's the unfortunate part.
On that note, thank you so much, guys. It was lovely. Apparently, Bumi is going to do something soon. Lwazi is also going to be hosting something soon. So we've got a whole bunch of people that have just volunteered today to do some really cool stuff. So I'm so honored just to listen and to learn from Bumi. Siyabonga kakhulu sis Bumi and Lwazi. Yeah, whoever else. Ashe, Bamaku, Makosa Makulu.
Sister I think Tata uLitha ubu-wrapper up ngolo hlobo ne.
Ndigqibile mna, ayikho enye into endizoyithetha.
Siyabulela tata, sibulela